Yo, the Sports Back Bros podcast is back at you on a Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
We're not doing the typical Thursday today. Oh, well, on Thursday, we're just going to be on Wednesday because, of course, other things happen. Life happens. But we're here on Wednesday, and things have happened just from Monday to Wednesday. And the reason why those things were able to happen is NFL camps are now in full effect. We're seeing all the players come in. Some players don't look like they worked out in the offseason, but they're still going to lead NFL teams, allegedly. But here's where we are now. What's up?
What's happening? Good to be back.
Going
NFL is right around the corner. Baseball season's been done for me. I just got to do it. Fuck Jerry Reinsdorf.
Bro.
Tell the team, hey, if Joe Biden can drop out of the presidential race, you can sell the team before you die, asshole. Anyway.
This legacy thing, that's what it comes down to. These egomaniacs. We talk about players being egomaniacs. I mean, aside from Jerry Jones and these owners that are complete megalomaniacs, well, we got this. We got people who don't want to give up the teams even when they're losing. It's like the Ford family up there in Detroit. What legacy of winning? I heard something about Barry Sanders a little earlier. I was reading something about him. They was talking about how the trajectory had got disrupted for the next quarter century because of him. Wait a minute. What happened the previous quarter century before him? Nothing.
It was Barry's fault.
Because
he retired before
they
were ready for him.
The article was talking about, well, I'm not going to blame Barry all the way, but he does have a blame in this. And I wonder myself, wait a minute. They got rid of players that he liked, especially Kevin.
He retired in the 90s, didn't he?
Yeah. So I guess 25 years later, it kind of leads you somewhat to now. So,
ridiculous.
But in any event, they talked about how they didn't put it completely on him, but he wanted to pronounce why Barry Sanders is pretty much a bad guy. So much so that the Detroit Lions asked for their money back in terms of that signing bonus, well, a part of it. Just like they did the same thing with Megatron. They wanted a piece of that signing bonus back once you gave up on the team. No, I think you gave up on your players because in the revenue sharing era, well, win or lose, you still get your money. I mean, when these big time or big business people are together, they know that. And the Cincinnati Bengals stayed bad for so long because of that same reason. But now everybody's deciding to win. There's some parity in the league, and now people have a chance to win, and they're doing it. But in any ways, the NFL season is right around the corner. Lamar Jackson came back from his illness. I still don't know what that illness was, but he's back for the Baltimore Ravens. And I don't know what I was thinking in the offseason. I forgot all about Henry coming in, Derrick Henry coming in, being the running back for Baltimore. I'm still thinking Lamar Jackson is going to, still trying to prove that he's a passing quarterback, run a little bit less. And now that he's lost weight, should still have some speed, even though I think age is already taking that speed from him.
Do you know who their wide receivers are? They lost Hollywood Brown. I don't know if they re-signed Odell. Mark Andrews.
I think is Odell down in Miami now?
I don't know. But I'm saying Mark Andrews, he should be healthy this year, but you need more than a tight end.
Man,
unless they're taking it back to the 70s, 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Derrick Henry.
Well, you know what, Derrick, and as I was saying in the last show, when it came down to Derrick Henry and the way he runs and the style of running that he has, when you're a big back like that, and those little injuries start, they turn into big injuries.
They mount up.
You just start. Pretty much your career just kind of goes down the tubes because, well, the injuries just add up. Christian Okoye was abusing guys when he did it, but he did it for a short period of time. Next thing you know, he started breaking down. Maurice Jones-Drew, a more compact, shorter guy, short, not small. He was a compact guy. I remember when he was Sean Merriman on that block. He took on a lot of guys. He had a lot of power, but once they started dinging on him, NFL players aren't afraid, man. So he didn't last. Now, if he had a more elusive style, he would have gone longer, but it didn't work out for him. So with Kevin, keep on calling Travis Henry, but Travis Henry's the other running back for Tennessee with the Buffalo. But Derrick Henry, he's what the doctor ordered because you do have that mix of the running quarterback who now looks like he can throw the ball a little bit when he needs to. In fact, even more than a little bit. I think he's adequate. Lamar Jackson passing the football now against teams when it matters. It seems like it might be a different story. But going back to their wide receiver spot, well, they don't have anyone. Nelson Aguilar, they still got him. I mean, they got him. I mean, the guy who's dropping passes for the Philadelphia Eagles, and in fact, to the point to where there was a fire in Philadelphia, and they were saving babies, and they were throwing them out the window with the firemen, and the citizens was catching the babies and putting them on the ground. And they interviewed this guy as a hero. He was like, yeah, unlike Nelson Aguilar, insinuate that he would have dropped the babies.
Was he the one that fumbled at the goal line?
Huh?
Was he the one that fumbled at the goal line against the Chiefs?
You know what? It might have been. I know he dropped passes in the end zone. Dropped passes outside the end zone.
I think someone else fumbled.
I don't think it was him.
But you got to have at least a threat on the outside. You can have the best running game, but if they put 9 in the box and you can't beat it with your arm or in the passing game, you're in trouble.
Well, Zay Flowers is still there. He turned out to be pretty quality last season.
Was he the one that fumbled?
So, matter of fact, it was Zay Flowers. Was it Zay Flowers that fumbled?
Yeah.
Yes, it was Zay Flowers that fumbled. The bad attitude. Yeah. So yeah, right. So yeah, but Nelson Aguilar, at least you have that veteran, I guess, if you call it leadership. He doesn't drop everything all the time. He's made plays. But I also believe they have Malik Cunningham as a wide receiver. So that's a project. That's a former quarterback who's now playing wide receiver with Baltimore. So I don't know what's going to happen with that.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Nigerian Nightmare, Christian Okoye.
Mm-hmm. Just
going off memory, it seems like after Atwater lit him up on Monday Night Football. So is that how it really happened? Like, was that his Buster Douglas moment? Like his aura of invincibility?
I think so, because it gets played over and over. And I remember when it happened, people talked about it, and it was a big deal to talk about back then. There was no social media, and anyone who knew anything about football knew that, and they saw the play because I believe it was a Monday night game in which it happened. So all eyes were on the NFL anyhow. And after that, it seems like he wasn't as effective. I don't know if it happened immediately. I just know there was more talk about the hit than anything else he was doing after that. And
that was my guy, man, 27 Atwater. I used to love to watch him.
He didn't care.
Yeah.
Man.
Knocked himself out in the Super Bowl.
Dennis Smith, another big hitter, man. But yeah, Atwater, bro. He went to Arkansas. This dude just bought the lunch pail, the wood, everything, and put it on Christian Okoye. And, a little bit before that, Christian Okoye didn't come into the league as a world beater. He had all of the physical attributes at 261 pounds, ran a 4.4. And I remember watching him, time him, and I was like, man, this is the big dude. And he got more attention from coming from Azusa Pacific than he got from being a football player. And then ultimately, I guess the size worked out to where it caught up with his athleticism. And he had the career he had until Atwater said enough of that.
Well, hold up. You said he was from Arkansas. Wasn't he from Alabama?
Who?
Atwater.
See, I thought he was from Arkansas. But
I'm trying to look it up because I'm almost positive he went to Bama.
Okay, I mean, I might be wrong, but I could have sworn he went to Arkansas. But hey, it can't be right all day, especially in the COVID era when your memory just disappears.
Yeah,
whatever you once knew.
We need a guy on the side to do research for us.
I want a crack staff. We need a crack staff that leaves the pipe at home. That's what we need.
Let us know in the comments. Was it Arkansas or Alabama? Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was Bama.
Yeah, but the story, I think, is becoming a story, kind of a non-story, but it's something that's at least compelling, entertaining, is Bryce Young and how Bryce Young looks going into the building in his second year going in for the Carolina Panthers. It looks like he's regressed, and I don't mean talent-wise. I mean visibly, physically regressed. He looks like a little kid. He comes in with his book bag, his backpack. He looks like a 7-year-old about to get on a school bus and go to his first day of school. And this is the guy you entrusted as the number 1 pick overall for your franchise. It doesn't look good from the visual part of it.
You got the picture?
The picture, the picture of I actually zoomed up a picture on him. And here you go. Bryce freaking Carter. Unbelievable.
It looks like your first day of freshman year.
Yeah, freshman year, Revenge of the Nerds, all of that stuff. That's what it looks like here. I'm like, wow, man. Look, now, if he was taller, I would look at it a little differently and say, okay, he has the height he could fill out, but he's like 5'10", perhaps. He's like Kyler Murray, 5'10", maybe even 5'11". That might be a little too generous, but it looks like he hasn't spent any time in the weight room because, I'll go back to the point I just made about being taller and looking young. I remember I covered SEC Media Day, the time when Eli Manning was coming out of Ole Miss. And I remember seeing him in his face. I was like, man, this is the beginning of the season anyway, preseason media days. And I'm thinking to myself, man, he's going to get killed by these NFL players, man. He just looks so young in his face. Am I just an older guy, or is he really that young looking that if I were his age, where I look at him and say, man, you still look young? I don't know, but he looks so young, and I thought he'd get killed in the NFL. And look, he's a possible Hall of Famer, and with the 2 Super Bowl rings and MVPs, he may just be the Hall of Famer.
From a distance, if you don't really look closely at the photo, he kind of resembles Will Smith's son, the Karate Kid. Jaden Smith.
Yeah.
Like, look at that picture. From the distance, he looked like it could be Jaden.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. If he was Jaden, he would be playing football. I don't know. And to look at the team that the Carolina Panthers have, you're talking about an embarrassment of nothing. I mean, you talk about a team that has absolutely nothing. I've been hearing about how David Tepper, their owner, is turning out to be one of the worst owners in all the NFL. I don't know how they come to that conclusion. Good, bad in terms of owners, man. We're so busy concentrating on players. And it's not like David Tepper is trying to be one of these guys who wants to be known. He's not like Jerry Jones. Everybody knows Jerry Jones because Jerry Jones, is Jerry Jones. He makes sure that he's in the spotlight. But here, the Carolina Panthers, you look at their roster. Dan Morgan is he's their president. I believe he's their president or GM or whatever he is. And how does he keep his job? You look at the guys with this roster. I'm looking at it right now, and you do have Bryce Young. Andy Dalton is the backup, so I guess you have somebody who's I can't even call him solid anymore because the last time I saw Andy Dalton, he was not solid. I thought he was too high to, as a second rounder when he came out of TCU. But anyways, he's had a solid career, pretty good career. But looking at the roster of Carolina, it's an absolute mess on the offensive side of the ball. 3 wins at most in a 17-game season.
And when you look at the whole picture, they drafted Young ahead of C.J. Stroud.
Yep.
Then the Bears got their number 1 pick. Everybody thinks Caleb Williams is a generational talent. If they didn't make that trade, they would have gotten Caleb Williams or had a chance to make the choice between him, Jaden Daniels, and Drake May. So just a lot of things went wrong for that franchise.
So
sometimes looks can be deceiving, though. That he's got a baggy shirt on. I'm not saying he doesn't look too strong, but
he has a baggy
it could
shirt
be a
on.
bad angle. I mean, look, for 4 games, we thought Bronny was absolute trash, and then he stepped his game up.
Put it together. But you know what? No one's running into him recklessly, trying to put him out of the game.
No, I'm just saying.
And a bad offensive line, by the way.
Let's wait and see how it looks on the field.
Oh yeah, I would like to, because I really thought that he would be a solid player, if not a solid player, a good player in the NFL. I was okay with him going number 1 overall when people were saying he's too small, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. I watched him, even though it doesn't matter. I watched him in Atlanta when they played against Miami a couple years ago when he had his first start. And I was like, bro, this guy surprised me like big time because I wasn't expecting this. I was like, just another running quarterback, another Lamar Jackson. And this guy was cerebral. He ran when he had to, but he didn't run a lot at all in his entire college career. He was able to read defenses. And you saw the difference between him being in there and another player being in there when they played against Texas. And, he got roughed up by Texas. He was doing well. Was it Texas? Yeah, in fact, it was Texas. Because that was the year before they came back to Bama and whooped on him last season. And a huge difference with him in there and him not in there. And the experience wasn't the only factor, just that cerebral part of the game he was able to get. And I thought that it would translate over to the NFL, but he has a lot of bad parts around him. And if they're building a team around this guy, you would like for him to be over 200 pounds. I don't think he's there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That franchise, that team is void of a lot of talent. It's hard to shine when you don't have talent around you.
Yeah. So whether it's Andy Dalton or Bryce Young behind that offensive line and that entire offense, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, seriously, I mean, I guess there might be an over-under of how many games he's going to be in before he gets knocked out of the game. Maybe knocked out for the season or some significant time. It shouldn't be a number like that or a line like that, but
And with
going
them
by the way he
giving,
looks.
and with them not having their number one pick, they don't have
Yep.
a top impact player coming in to help out, whether that be on the line or wide receiver or even on defense. They don't have that top blue chip guy coming in.
Yep.
But I did confirm Steve Atwater went to Arkansas. My bad. I was thinking of someone else, the safety, when Alabama played Miami in the Sugar Dome.
George T.
That guy, George T. That's who I got him confused with. I don't know why, but I mean, because like I said, Atwater's my guy. I know his number 27, but for some reason I thought he was Alabama, but he's not. He's a Razorback.
George T. ran down Lamar Thomas, took the ball out of the freaking hand of the Sugar Bowl, went the other way, and there was a penalty, luckily.
But speaking of pictures, did you see Joe Burrow? People make a big deal because he got a new haircut.
Yeah, I mean, he got a new haircut. I think colors and everything else, blonde, the entire nine, man. I don't know if it's
something. When I saw the picture, I was like, man, that's Cody Rhodes.
Cody Rhodes. I mean, look at him, man. I mean, they know people are going to talk about these things. Athletes know, especially in the social media era. Athletes know that whatever they do, especially the high-profile guys in whichever sport they're in, or if they just happen to be mainstream, notable, they do things they know they're going to get responses for. You think he didn't do that knowing that everybody that watches NFL football with the status he's had, even with the injury, when he's on, he's on. We know it. He's going to put that up there and think that people are just going to, oh, that's just Joe being Joe. No, they're going to say what you're saying. And they're going to say,
he's got impeccable timing, though. He has impeccable timing. WNBA's on hiatus for the Olympics.
Yeah,
there's not a lot going on, so hey, he's giving people something to talk about.
Yeah,
so.
He and Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young was more inadvertent. I don't think he was just hoping that he was going to become a news story, just walking from his car to the stadium. Like, wait a minute, look at that guy. When they let that kid in, yo, bro, wait. Oh no, that's our starting quarterback, man. Please leave him alone.
Probably got carded at the gate.
He probably did. Look at him. I mean, God, man. Small, I mean, really small. And that does matter when these big dudes are coming after you, man. They just untie your shoe while you're trying to get away. You're going to fall down. And now you look at the rest of what's going on in the NFL. Tua is probably going to, I heard he's going to practice just a little bit because of what's going on with his contract situation. It's fluid. Man, why not respect this man and give him his money? They're talking about the injuries, and I understand that. But, man, are there a whole lot of quarterbacks in front of him when it comes down to things that do get done when he's not injured? This past season, it wasn't like previous seasons which he was just injured game after game after game and was missing games. He played most of these games this year. Now, on the other hand, there were good games and there were games that weren't necessarily good when they just played teams that were 500 or over.
Better. He has to perform better against the better teams.
Yeah,
that's when he and his team struggled. But if they're playing the also Rans average teams, they thumped them. They had no issues, no problems putting points on the board. But it was when they played the Bills or the Chiefs or the upper echelon teams when they struggled.
I'm still thinking that he has the ability, the arm strength he has. It's the injury factor for him, but that's something that just wasn't that big an issue last year as it was the year before. In fact, since he was at Alabama, just having these little injury issues. And it goes back to the Polynesian players when I talk about the NFL, how big they are. And a lot of them just get injured from the smallest thing. And one of those people who stands and jumps to mind was, remember, Chris Fuamatu Ma'afala, that back Ma'afala, coming out of Utah with his Pittsburgh Steelers, came into Jacksonville. A big dude, agility through the roof. But, man, don't trip him. He's going to be out for about 3-4 days. Oh, my. I just couldn't believe it, man.
So what do you think about the Packers? They're trying to sign Jordan Love to a long-term contract, I believe.
And they should. Based on what he did
enough for one season?
You know what? I think he did enough in one season to believe that this is probably going to be common and going to be the norm moving forward, because he was one of those few quarterbacks that was able to sit down for 2 seasons before he was able to get the reins, like the old quarterbacks used to do. People were wondering about Steve Young when he was behind Montana and wondering if he got the opportunity, would he do something? yeah, he did something. He didn't get to a championship immediately, but they didn't really miss a beat in terms of continuing to win and being a winning franchise. He ultimately got a Super Bowl. And I think this is kind of the same thing. This is one of the few times that a quarterback coming into the league had a chance to sit down as a first rounder behind someone like Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what's going on in that quarterback room, but being able to just learn and have the clipboard and get garbage time when you had it and learning from him and seeing how he done it, going about being a professional, it looks like it worked out pretty well. Now, is it a matter of people just looking at him and not necessarily knowing what to expect? And now in the offseason, as NFL defensive coordinators do, they're able to put together game plans to slow things down and kind of take it away like they did with spread offense and the way they did to the Wildcat and all that other stuff.
That remains to be seen, but now they have tape. He won't be sneaking up on anybody. And the same can be said about C.J. Stroud. Although C.J. Stroud was doing it pretty much from the beginning of the season. So at the end of the season, he shouldn't have been sneaking up on anyone.
No, he shouldn't.
Whereas Jordan Love, it took him a while to really find his rhythm. Maybe it was like week 6 or 7 when he really started to take off.
Yeah, because I saw that first game. You know, they played Chicago. And the numbers looked okay, but if you watch the game, you saw the story. You was like, wait a minute, man, you dumping off 5-yard passes and guys just breaking it, doing things. It wasn't him reading defenses, going through his progressions, or when he tried doing that, he got stuck looking downfield and ended up getting sacked or hit, and he was rattled a bit. But then I remember, I think it was like 4th, 5th, 6th week or something like that. I saw Miguel, like, bro, this is a different quarterback. Just watching him, I said, wow, this is a different quarterback. He actually looks pretty good. And then he got to the point where he looks damn good. Wow. Is he going to look back? They do have a whole season now of film to watch, and they will work on, and they've made their team better as well, and you think that should help as well. And he's in camp. I think if he misses camp, it might disrupt what he's built. But I don't know, man. But with CJ Stroud, like you said, he started from the very beginning. CJ Stroud did a lot of what Russell Wilson did coming in from Wisconsin as a 3rd rounder, going to Seattle, and I didn't think he was going to beat out right away, and he just came the starting quarterback from day one. He was killing it in the preseason and just picked it up in day one from the starting season, first game of the season, and he became a very good quarterback. And I'm not going to say a French Hall of Fame. I think he might get into the Hall of Fame,
possibly. But getting back to Jordan Love, I would say, going into Dallas in the playoffs, coming out with a victory, that's a big thing. However, Cowboys are gonna cowboy come playoff time. So
they've done it so often.
I don't know. I don't know which one was it. Was it the Packers being good, or was it just the Cowboys doing cowboy things?
Yeah, you know what? Maybe that's true because the Cowboys have had their problems in the playoffs for a long time now. Or is it that kind of like straying from what he did throughout the season? When he went into the season saying that he wasn't going to throw 10 interceptions and he lived up to expectations. Wait till the playoffs start, man. Then you just kind of like say, when the pressure's off, let's just throw these picks again. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I just think that, Dallas is going into this season. Well, Dallas again, Dak again. Jerry Jones says the right things about him when he does say anything about him. He's never said anything about we need to get a new quarterback, which is unusual for Jerry-isms because he typically throws that little shade out there to give you that doubt that, I really don't want him here. We're just saying the right thing, though.
So the other day I said I'll find out tomorrow morning when I listen to sports radio on the way to work or on the way home.
Yeah.
And what I heard today was people were upset. Somebody released the top 25 players in the NFL since the year 2000. Of course, Brady was number 1.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember who was number 2, but Aaron Donald was number 3.
Oh, okay.
Somebody was number 4. Moss was number 5. Kelvin Johnson was 6.
Wait a minute. Moss was number 5.
Who?
You said Randy Moss was number 5?
Yeah.
Whoa. All right.
But here's what got me. Ray Lewis was like 15.
Whoa. That's something different right there.
Exactly. Like
was Ed Reed even on there?
You know who? Ed Reed was, yeah. Ed Reed was on there. I can't remember if he was ahead or behind Ray Lewis. But the Chicago media is upset because Brian Urlacher wasn't in the top 25.
No, Brian Urlacher needed to be in the top 25, though.
Right.
It's not even a homer deal. I think Brian Urlacher was that player. And I continue to say
I gotta find the list, and I know there's got to be at least 2 or 3 guys Urlacher was better than.
Oh, easily. Man, I remember when I used to see Brian Urlacher on television, I was like, man, I don't know, man. He's kind of a little bit overrated. Man, when he came here to Jackson when I watched him, I never said another bad thing about him again. Watching that dude go from sideline to sideline, that dude's a maniac. And I remember the college days when he was at New Mexico. And he was a safety and he was running punch back and all that kind of stuff. I knew the athleticism was there. But as far as being that terror they were saying that he was, man, I didn't believe it. Even seeing some of the stats, just watching him on television. When he came here to Jacksonville, game over. That was it. I was like, yo, bro, this dude's a player, man. This dude's seriously one of the best linebackers I've seen in person, man. And I've seen a lot of linebackers. And just for someone I didn't think was that good to be as good as he was, legit. And another one, LaDainian Tomlinson, seeing him in person. Now, I've always thought he was good anyway, but seeing him in person was even better, man.
Yeah, I can only imagine. LT was a bad dude.
Oh, man. He got to like 3 steps. He's like halfway down the field. Like, I know he was that damn fast, man. I thought he was fast, but not like that.
There's no way there's 14 guys better than Ray Lewis, and there's no way 25 guys better than Brian Urlacher.
Look, Ray Lewis is arguably the best middle linebacker ever, still battling it out with Dick Buckus. That's pretty much it. Other people who want to be middle linebackers, they're behind them. So how can he not be a little closer to number 1 on the list or close in the top 5 or top 7?
Like, I know Aaron Donald was bad. He's badass, man. But I don't even think he's better than Ray Lewis. Him being number 3, I can't roll with that.
See, Ray Lewis was more dominant, believe it or not. But I know you have a better opportunity of being dominant as a middle linebacker than you do as a defensive lineman. I mean, unless you're special like Aaron Donald, he could get after the quarterback and he could play any position on the field if you wanted to play on a defensive line. And he had that speed, he had the power. But with Ray Lewis, man, you know, those guys in the front, they're the ones who free him up to do what he does. And he was just bringing the wood. And people that he broke up, broken collarbones and everything else that he had done to them. I mean, even when Chad Ochocinco had him faking injuries out there, hitting guys. He was just bending dudes.
Trying to hit him from the blind side, and he took the worst of it.
He took the worst of it. I mean, it was like a gnat, just like, yo, or a mosquito bite an elephant. The elephant was like, whatever, I still bleed, but still don't feel you. I know there was a Deshaun Jackson video of him getting away from Ray Lewis, and he didn't want none of that smoke. But Ray was like, yo, I like you. That's why I like your game. Right, so you're not going to hurt him so you can continue playing in the game? So
yeah, I think that was it an interception against the Titans he took to the house when he punked Eddie George? Was it a fumble? I think it was a pass. Otherwise, Eddie George would have been prepared and seen him coming.
That's another play.
The one that they dumped off to Eddie George, and like I said, Ray punked him, took the ball, and just ran to the house. I think that's all intimidation. Like Eddie George knew Ray was coming.
But Eddie George was a beast himself, though.
Right, but I'm just saying he knew who was coming. He knew who was coming.
You know, one time when the Tennessee Titans came to Jacksonville, you know, I went to the visitor locker room to get some sound, you know, do the little interviews. And I was in this little triangle area, and it just happens to be because, you know, the visitor locker room, they sit, you know, I guess they organize where they're going to sit, but that's just not their home locker room. So it's not like they stay there. But anyway, it was like Steve McNair was right here, Eddie George was right there, and Javon Curse was right there. And the only thing I could do between all 3 of those guys was look at Javon Curse's hands, because I heard that he had the biggest hands in NFL history. So I was looking at that. I read that back when he was in college of Florida. From his thumb to his pinky was 12 inches.
Damn.
And I'm looking at his hands like, man, he needs a Deacon Jones someone up in there, man. Go upside the head, that big hand, man, make him hear that high-pitched noise you hear when you get upside the head. Yeah, man, but seeing Eddie George, you know, in person, see how big this dude is, you see the bruises from the game that he had just played. I'm like, God. Fred Taylor was another one. He had this nagging bruise on his arm that the scab used to come off like every week home game, and it never healed up the entire season. I'm like, man, these dudes are just brutal, man. Come on. But yeah, as far as the top 25 guys since 1920, I mean 1920.
1920
we started right about that. But
2000.
2020. I mean 2000. But I don't know, man. Ray Lewis being number 15, anything in double digits is an insult.
I gotta agree. I mean, right off the bat, I'm thinking top 10.
Now,
And
who
then you
didn't
gotta
belong
start
there?
looking at things to start ranking. What?
Who didn't belong on that list?
That's what I'm saying. I was listening and they were running off the names. I can't remember all of them. Like
All
Troy
right.
Polamalu was on the list. Of course, Peyton Manning was on the list. I
I can
think
give
I
it
may
Troy
have already
Polamalu,
mentioned him.
man.
Brett Favre, I think he was like number 17. And they were like, they thought that was kind of surprising. They thought that was a little low, but when you look at it, the whole thing, his interceptions, only one Super Bowl compared
Yep.
to other quarterbacks. It made sense. I'll see if I can get the list. I'll send it to you.
Now, was Terrell Davis on it? Even though his career was short, he did have those big games or big seasons. I don't think he should have been on the list, but it's an intriguing thing because it leads on to something. I just saw a story with him when he had just gotten arrested on the airplane. The FBI came and got him off.
What?
BS story, man. Now, the first thing first, the race car people know this day and age they use it so conveniently, but I don't know, that shouldn't be your first default when something happens to you and you just happen to be black or happen to be some other ethnicity where you think that you're being oppressed or whatever it might be. He was on a plane with his wife and his children, and his son needed ice. So he asked the stewardess for the ice, and I think she ignored him or didn't hear him. So he tapped her on the shoulder, and when he tapped her on the shoulder, she said, "Hey, don't touch me, don't hit me." And she went to another part of the plane. So apparently she told the captain. And so when I think they landed, and the captain was like, everybody stayed in their seat. And because, I don't think he said anything about the FBI, but ultimately he stayed in your seats. And when they stood in their seat, the FBI comes on and they come up to him and they handcuffed him. So now he's suing, I think it's United. He's suing United. His wife is on one of these shows, one of these news shows already, talking about it. And it happened in front of their kids, but then she just threw the race car straight out there. We have 2 black kids. You just can't have 2 kids. I have 2 black kids. We're trying to teach them that the world isn't like that, but when they get a chance to see it like this and that, man, come on now. Did it happen to anybody else? Because did anybody else tap her? Did she act that way? See, there's so many elements to it that you can talk about and decide or make a more definitive conclusion or come to a more definitive.
But at the same time, if it was an older white man, like in his 70s, excuse me, miss, and taps her on the shoulder, she can have the same reaction?
You know what? We can't even say now because we knew the reaction she had with him.
I have my doubts.
I mean, I have my doubts too. An older guy, yeah, because it's probably not as imposing. Or you could have a roided out MMA guy with a cauliflower ear tapping her on her shoulder. Is she going to say the same? You know what I mean? Is she going to trip? Why are you hitting me? I saw you hit somebody in the octagon. She running into the pile over that. You know what I mean? But the whole catch is screwed up. And I think that he's going to get some money from this and he deserves it if that's what happened because I think it ultimately comes down to just her being how she is. In this age of where women don't need men and women feeling oppressed all the time, and now you can't say a thing or you can't do anything to a woman. You can't, and anything, whether it's good or bad, you just can't do anything. And we're just in a society where people probably take it for granted or take advantage of society being that way. But in Terrell Davis's case, man, I think that was screwed up. It stuck. Leave it for what it is right now until they can prove otherwise without pushing the issue of race, because that's just pretty much don't lead with it, but that's what it's going to be. But the whole thing
is is that Terrell's story? Like, do we know for sure it was just like a gentle tap? Or did he grab her by the arm? Hey, you know what I mean?
See, now I didn't hear him say he tapped. Sure. I think as the story was being told, it said that he tapped on. He said he tapped her on the shoulder to say, "Hey, my son needed ice." And she's like, "Don't touch me," and she leaves and goes to another part of the plane. Apparently,
if it happened like that, that's bullshit. But
yeah, that's absolute bullshit.
Every story.
I don't think he had any other reason. I mean, is he that upset that she might have ignored his kid to the point that where he's kind of bumped in? Hey, where's my ice? I don't think he said that.
He mushed her. He mushed her from behind. Hey,
you know what I'm saying? Because everybody else would have said the same thing in that regard. They'd have probably defended. Why is that guy hitting him, hitting her? And Terrell's.
But if it was a gentle tap on the shoulder, how can anybody call that a hit? How can you construe that as being hit?
Yeah, you know what? People who want drama. But anyway, they're going to get the drama they wanted, because if he ends up suing he's probably going to win something. He may not break the bank, but he's going to win something if they can, push this issue. And what is she going to do? She's not getting fired. She'll probably go to terrorize somebody else with her false accusations or over-exaggerated accusations. But anyways, with the NFL still being on the mind, that's crazy. Well, baseball-wise, as you said, your season is over. Shoot, the Yankees losing to the Mets. Make it like my
hold on. Did you see the Hard Knocks?
No, I have not seen any of them.
So they were talking about that on sports radio here too. I guess the Giants on draft day, they're going through the board and they're saying it's going to be Williams and Daniels number 2. New England's probably going to take this person. This team's probably going to take that person. If Harrison and Neighbors are on the board at 6, Chicago's going to trade us the 3rd and the 4th, and we'll send them a number 5. And it's like a 5-minute clip. And I don't know if it's the GM, whoever's talking, he's saying, but if this happens and that happens, and then because they want Joe Alt, and then the draft takes place, they take Neighbors, and the Bears get their guy at number 9, who they wanted all along, and people are like, "What the heck are the Giants doing? They're about to make this trade, and they were not going to draft Joe Alt." Dunze was Ryan Pohl's guy. Like he would have traded up to get him, but the way it was going down, the way the draft was shaking out, there's word that one of his advisors or assistants, whatever, is like, don't do it. We're gonna get him. He's gonna come to us, and he did.
Well, I've been hearing stories now how Malik Neighbors has been performing in Giants camps. I mean, not training camp yet, but during these off-season camps, and people have been impressed. Certain positions you could be impressed about when it comes to camps and people aren't in equipment and not taking physical contact. You can kind of see that, like, okay, you know what, this can probably transfer over to the game itself. I don't think running backs is that position. I think wide receivers are more so, since the game is more offensive and the defense has been so restricted, over the years, and it's getting even more restricted because they want more points scored. When you're doing well as a wide receiver in camps, you can at least identify defenses and when to break off your pattern, your routes and all those things. I think that, it may just translate, especially we saw you in college doing a lot of the same thing on a high level, playing in the SEC or even the Big Ten. And you can at least, I feel more confident saying that than if the guy didn't do anything or didn't do a whole lot in college, especially with an average team. Then he gets to the NFL, and he does okay and with these mini camps, and you just don't think that automatically will translate over. Now, it's not foolproof. There's been players that can come out and haven't done any damn thing, and they come into the league and start doing things. We've seen those kinds of players as well. Players taken late. You wonder, man, if they get the draft all over again, will he be the first pick, in the first round, or will he still be a 4th round? The Terrell Davis pick. We already know about the Tom Brady pick. I'm a litany of people, man.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I was not impressed with Terrell Davis in college.
Yeah, neither was I. I wasn't really impressed with him in the NFL. He went down and his backups ran for 100-some yards.
They did, but he got 2,000. So I guess he's just a little bit better than them. Alandis Gary and Mike Williams. And Clinton Porter just, was excellent behind the offensive line as well. But Terrell Davis, he went to Long Beach State. The late George Allen coached there, and the program went under. And I remember the story. I don't know if it's true or not. I know I haven't really checked this. So they claim that George Allen died from pneumonia because of the Gatorade bath. He got sick after the Gatorade bath. He was an old dude. He ended up getting pneumonia. That's how he ended up dying. People claim it's a cruel joke and something cruel to say. But anyway, Terrell Davis goes to Georgia, and he doesn't do anything. I don't think he's doing that well. And the reason why he fell to the 6th round. And I don't think didn't do that well. Then he gets into the NFL and picks it up and gets a nickname called. They start talking about his high school days in San Diego, being the boss and all that stuff. He wasn't the boss. Freaking Long Beach State or Georgia. So what the hell is this?
That was his nickname.
Yeah, the boss. They call him boss. You hear these little side stories, man, but pepping guys up that you never knew that even existed. And you went to Long Beach State, man. I don't know. You didn't even go to San Diego State. So, I mean, there's a lot of teams that kind of didn't pick you up. This isn't Marshall Faulk. to where Marshall Faulk, coming out of New Orleans, was running a 10-300 meters, but he was a diehard Miami Hurricanes fan, but they wanted him to play defensive back. He wanted to play running back, and San Diego State was the only one to give him the
I still
opportunity.
think 28 deserved a Heisman.
Oh, the thing, see, the reason why I was always saying that he kind of sort of deserved it.
That
but
wasn't Ken Dorsey's year, was it?
What year?
That wasn't Dorsey's year, was it?
No. Dorsey was in 2000. That was Gino Toretta.
Toretta
Back then, but he didn't deserve it. Come on, I'm a Canes fan. He didn't deserve it, man. I remember he threw that 98-yard touchdown to Horace Copeland against Arkansas, and that's what jumped it off. And then I remember he also, that Canes team as a whole, destroyed that Houston team that David Klinger was playing for, where he put up those ridiculous numbers the week before. I think he had like 7 or 8 touchdowns. Then he comes to Miami, got stomped out. That was the end of his Heisman Trophy opportunities. And then he ends up still getting taken by the Cincinnati Bengals, and shows why he shouldn't have been taken. You know, the run and shoot kind of proved its point. I mean, Rodney Pete should have shown, not Rodney Pete, Andre Ware should have shown you that. Played in the run and shoot at Houston, and then go to the NFL to a run and shoot team. I thought he'd been go hand in hand, and it didn't. Bad hand.
Work out that way. But go ahead. I interrupted you when you were.
I was like Marshall Faulk. He was a Canes fan, and he ended up going to San Diego State because the Canes wanted him as a defensive back. He wanted to play running back. I think he started off at 5th string, and we already know the talent he has. He was a 10-300 meter guy, leg pressing about 1,000 pounds as a senior in high school. But the reason why I thought that I'm okay with him not getting the Heisman, I wouldn't have been upset if he gotten it. It was the whack, and that defense and the defenses they played in the whack for a long time were terrible. I mean, if you wanted to stay up and just watch a pinball machine, you watch those games at night. BYU versus San Diego State, like 65 and 63. And the last play of the game wasn't even a Hail Mary. It was a handoff from their own 10. He ran it 90 yards. And that was it. They were getting from the whack.
Marshall was a bad dude.
But what let me know that he was legit is when they did play Miami and they were putting that wood on him. He still broke like 57 yards or something. I was like, bro, this dude's for real. That was the Canes team to speed with Jesse Armstead and Michael Barrows, man. I was like, man, Jesse Smith. So I was like, okay, this dude's for real. I can dig it. And well, since we're talking a little nostalgic college, I was watching that Lawrence Phillips video again today. I watched it before. The one I think was on Netflix or
like the documentary?
Yeah, the documentary one.
Okay.
And I watched the videos of him in college, and I remember watching him, not knowing a whole lot about him. It just wasn't like that. And I remember he played against Florida, and he was running out. Like, man, these dudes in Florida gonna just run through them, man. And Tommy Frazier and the rest of them just ran those dudes out of the business. Man. They just ran them out. I was like, they can't keep up that Florida speed. And they ended up being faster than Florida. And then when they played against Miami, they ended up beating up on Miami. Warren Sapp and Ray Lewis was like,
oh, that was the year before.
I'm saying, the fact that they're just playing against these Florida teams that I thought just had the decided advantage in terms of speed, that you just couldn't do anything against them. Miami, I guess at that time, was just the fastest of them all because they were the guys that were taking linebackers that had speed and just beefing them up and putting them on a defensive line. Making those safeties that were just a little narrow but fast as hell, beefing them up, making them linebackers, and they just had that speed across the board. And Marshall Faulk was able to just.
So I don't know if you know this, but when Nebraska was losing bowl games to Florida State and Miami in like 3 consecutive years, Tom Osborne called Bobby Bowden. Said, I need more speed on my defense, do you have any suggestions? Or Bobby sent his defensive crew down there, and they looked over the talent, and they did exactly what you talked about. They moved safeties to linebackers, they moved quarterbacks to safeties, and that's how they got their speed. Yep,
and that's exactly how it was. But then they started coming into Florida and taking Florida's best players. Those players are no longer just going to Florida State and Miami. This is before Central Florida, South Florida, and all these other schools, FIU, FAU, they didn't even have a team. But, this is before that. So the big three, and Miami led the way because of the championships of the 80s. They led the way. And when Tom Osborne started coming here, he was able to get those top players from Florida. man, you saw things change. That speed on that defense just went through the roof. And when you watch teams play against them, especially the Florida teams, they matched them man for man. And then they still had the big boys up front that the Southern boys didn't have. And they road graded their asses and just had them sick to their stomach, man. Warren Sapp breathing hard. He thought they couldn't dig it down there in the Orange Bowl. He had a tongue hanging down. And those Nebraska players like, yeah, let's keep going. In Miami. Come on, man.
So a couple of things. I can't remember who the quote was from. It might have been one of the linebackers from Florida State. They asked him about playing Nebraska. He's like, look, man, I'm going to just tell you this. They don't get tired. And you can hit them as hard as you possibly can. They just get up and they come back and hit you just as hard. He's like, those are some tough mothers, man. That's all I'm going to say.
They're toughest, man. Nebraska's always had that toughness to them. And then when they started adding players from the outside, it made them even tougher because it made them they had more speed. They had, the tenacious nature of football down in South Florida is different than the entire state of Florida. Once you get down to the Lauderdale area, I'll go up a little further. They called it like Howard Schnellenberger called it the state of Miami football when they kind of went to the I-4 corridor down and they just recruited that part of Florida. They didn't need Jacksonville. They kind of cherry-picked Tallahassee and other little areas up there. But they went down, they went to Tampa, kind of messed around with Orlando. But from Lauderdale to Miami, it's a different breed of football. You can go down there and see the difference in football being played. Now, Jacksonville, in my opinion, is the second best now in overall talent because it's a bigger city than even Miami. But as far as just hardcore football, those Miami boys, and then when you start having those guys going to Nebraska, get lights out. And we saw that. I mean, and Florida couldn't hang with them. I just took it for granted, man. Florida's going to run these dudes over. And I remember the press conferences and how they were just talking nonsense about Nebraska. Everybody saying how slow they were. Man, come on.
So to your point, there was a dude, he played about 20 minutes from where I live, and he was a cornerback. He played linebacker in Nebraska, played some safety for the Redskins in the NFL.
Yeah.
But if you remember watching the XFL, they used to put the ball at midfield.
Yeah, and let them go at it.
He was the guy. He never lost. They used to race to midfield. Jamel Williams, he never lost from what I remember. Like, I don't know if he was safety or linebacker on that team, but he was the fastest guy on the team. Like, yo, you run get that ball, we're going to get the ball.
Yeah.
So that proves your point because he played cornerback in high school.
Yeah, exactly. Those just blazing speed, man.
He's the one he got the safety. No. Did he get? Yeah, he got the safety on Warfel in that game. 28, Jamel Williams.
I remember Warfel, the way he was throwing the ball against everybody all year long, man. They didn't know how to block anybody anymore, and he was just getting ruffled. And he had Riedel Anthony on that team and Ike Hilliard, wide receivers.
I think so. Yeah.
I was thinking that Jack Jackson playing that game. I don't think Jack Jackson was there, but anyway, they just got run out of the business, man. And Tommy Frazier, probably he's definitely among the best college quarterbacks to play. And I know people look at more with passing the game, but the way he was able to do it, probably one of the best passing option quarterbacks as well. He didn't look like he was out of sorts when he decided to drop back. He didn't look like he was struggling to throw the ball like Tony Rice in the past for Notre Dame. He looked awkward. Jamel Holloway, anytime he decided to throw that little cannon, he was throwing that little tossing it like a hand grenade. Or even Charles Thompson, the same Oklahoma team, doing the same thing.
First Nebraska jersey I ever bought was number 15, Tommy Frazier.
Tommy Frazier, man.
He is the only college football player to be the MVP in 3 national championship games. They lost to Florida State, and he still was the MVP.
You know what? Because Florida State probably should have won that game. Wasn't there a call in that game?
There was a phantom clip on a punt return touchdown. Floyd fumbled at the goal line before he crossed the goal line. They called it a touchdown. There was a bogus late hit penalty that put him 15 yards closer on the last drive. I mean, there's just a lot of things. At that time, Bobby Bowden didn't have any, so people wanted Bobby to get his first.
Yeah, And they had Scott Bentley, remember the kicker that was in front of Sports Illustrated because he was supposed to be the reason why Florida State was going to finally win the national
supposedly
championship.
that was all they needed for 3 years, a kicker.
A kicker from Colorado who allegedly ran a 4.3. Come on, man. Yeah, right. He allegedly ran a 4.3. I was like, oh, okay, now I seen him run before 4.5, probably 4.4, somewhere around there. 4.3. What are you doing, man? There's levels to this game. And speed too.
They would have moved him from kicker to different position.
He probably was afraid to hit. Now, and remember, he was also the one who got caught with that recording with that girl, and it made a big issue. It was a scandal.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it was a whole bunch of nonsense that went on with that. But that Florida State team, man, I mean, Charlie Ward, I still wish I would have had a chance to see him in the NFL. I mean, that dude was one of the best college quarterbacks, especially in his second year, because he only played 2 years.
I always thought he was better at football than he was basketball.
Yeah,
but
you know
he
what?
probably had a longer career in the NBA than he would have had in the NFL.
Definitely. But you know what? At the same time, this guy, he's a spiritual dude, so he lets his spirit kind of leads him. He let his spirit lead him wherever he's going. So he's definitely Thomasville, Georgia, man. I mean, small town, got a lot of religion down there. But yeah, his second year looked so good, easily hands down, Heisman Trophy winner, got themselves a national championship. Work done. People completely forget about how great he was coming straight out of high school. He wanted the red shirt because he was only 155 pounds, and Bobby Bowden saw him against the first team and said, "Hell no." Bobby, bless your heart for thinking you were going to sit down. He made him a starter out there. Just started killing him, man. And when he came in, Tiger McMillan was no longer the running back, and I remember Marquette Smith, who was the Gatorade Player of the Year offensively, along with Derek Brooks, who was the Defensive Player of the Year offensively, coming from Pensacola Washington High School. They both went to Florida State. Gatorade offensive and deep. That's what Florida State was doing back then. They still can't win a championship. But Warwick Dunn comes in out of New Orleans and takes both their jobs, and the rest is history. But anyway, I mean, we just went everywhere with that. ACC Media Day, what I forgot all about. Stanford and Arizona State in the ACC, forgot all about that. They were just talking, had a conversation about the long trip. They willing to take the long trip. They have no choice. They signed a dotted line already.
No kidding.
ACC wants to hang on to Florida State and Clemson for obvious reasons, but the payouts are crap.
Speaking of Media Day, Matt Rule said he thinks the Big Ten should have 4 teams in the playoff because it's the toughest conference. He called it the NFL of college football.
See, you know what? If someone could prove the SEC with consistency wrong, I just don't see that yet, especially with Texas and Oklahoma now joining the SEC. Yeah, last year, the team from the Big Ten won the national championship in Michigan, but the SEC from top to bottom, and the SEC,
telling you, it's going to turn into the Big Ten versus the SEC.
That's what it's going to be. That's what I'm thinking. A super conference, probably within 5 years or less. I would not be surprised if there is a super conference that's probably not even part of the NCAA. And I've been waiting for that for a long time because after all the nonsense and monopolization that the NCAA has been doing over the years with the hypocrisy, what they did to the bars back in the day. Come on, man, including him. So I'm like, nah, man, get rid of them, start your own thing. Keep them out of the reindeer game. Let them try to win with New Mexico State and UNLV. Bring that money in with those teams. But anyways, man, time just kind of goes by. Well, there'll be more NFL news, I'm sure, between now because isn't the Hall of Fame game like next week?
Is it? I don't know. I don't watch preseason games.
Oh, yeah. You've been getting
Let me just say it again, see if you can commit it to memory. Bias does not watch NFL preseason games.
Not even see just how
that goes for NBA preseason games and baseball.
You're not trying to see what Caleb Williams does in
spring training games. What?
You're not going to try to. You're not even just at least wanting to see what Caleb Williams is going to do in the preseason, or at least
so I can set aside my time, sit down, get comfortable.
You know he's going to get the time,
and he plays like 2 series maybe. And
rookie. I think they're gonna keep him out there for a minute, man. Just
they got that's what they got YouTube for, highlights.
Yeah, highlights of a preseason game, man. I don't know what's worse, highlights of a preseason game or the preseason game itself. That's pretty much devoid of highlights. UPS workers and insurance salesmen after the NFL season or after mini camp or training camps are over. But anyway, I guess that's going to bring this to a conclusion for the Wednesday version of the Sports Bag Bros podcast. We'll be back on Monday, and I'm sure we will have enough to talk about, probably especially in the NFL, more college football as news continues to trickle in from there. Boxing, well, I guess we're going into August next month, which is next week, and Bud's going to have his fight in August, so I guess we'll get a chance to see Bud Crawford finally, after over a year of inactivity, trying to win himself a championship at 154 pounds. So until Monday, he's Biased. I'm Trav, and the Sports Bag Bros podcast is signing off. But until then, deuces.
Peace.